Hey everybody, it's Trudy here, One Grounded Angel, and this is the weekly angel card reading video for the week starting Monday the 8th of June through to the 14th of June 2020. So last week was just the most incredible week of change and I guess tension, and also a lot of underground trauma rising to the surface. So I firstly want to say I hope everybody is doing okay, and I hope that everybody is using this opportunity to really learn and so that we can go through this enormous transformation phase that we've been called to do. The old way was not working, and here we have an opportunity to do something about that. We had a lunar eclipse on Friday, maybe it was Saturday, depends where in the world we were, but it was in the sign of Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the sign of truth-telling, authenticity. It is a sign of global affairs, cross-cultural relations. So you can see, a lot of energy rising to the surface about things that we need to confront in our society. So I thought I'd choose, first of all, for Monday, this particular card deck called Gateway Oracle Cards by the wonderful Denise Lynn. Some of you may be familiar with her work. If you're not, definitely I recommend looking her up. She has created this card deck to bring through messages that we need at times where we are being called into transformation, when we're on, we're at the precipice of great change. And it's called Gateway Oracle Cards. There's a gateway there, and I feel we're at the gateway here, where we're going to be, where history will hopefully show that we are doing the right thing if we do the right thing. And so we need a lot of advice to help us do that. And this card here is very appropriate. It's called Renewing Your Life. And here is a woman pushing a box labeled clutter off the cliff, literally. I mean, you can't get much more symbolic than that. So in order to embrace the new, we have to let go of the old. And unfortunately, that means we're going to have to confront the ugly stuff, the stuff that we've been ignoring, the stuff that we have not wanted to deal with, the stuff that's been going on underneath, which perhaps we didn't, perhaps we didn't know about genuinely. I should mention Sagittarius is also the sign of learning. So getting rid of the clutter, we need to do a bit of a Marie Kondo on many of our attitudes, our beliefs, and many of our, behaviours. So throwing out the clutter, not because they don't bring us joy, but because they are not bringing joy to a lot of people. In fact, they're bringing a lot of hurt and pain, and we have a responsibility collectively to address that. Excuse me, I should have had a big clearing of the throat before I came on this video. How very Sagittarian, speaking the truth, speaking up. This is completely completely unexpected. Tuesday's card is wedding. I think I can count on like one hand the number of times this card has come up since I've been doing these daily card readings over the past 5.5 years, or whatever it is. So it's not new to get relationship messages, and it's certainly not surprising to have those right now at a time when Venus, the planet of relationships and harmony, is going retrograde, which means it's not literally going backwards. It appears to be going backwards, but what that means is things from the past can come up. Things under the surface can come up to make themselves known. So I guess in that context, relationship stuff is big for a lot of people, and certainly I would say the nature of being in lockdown can bring a lot of challenges to intimate relationships. Also, it can bring a lot of challenges if you're single and you're wanting to bring through a relationship and you're being confronted with some of the things that you maybe need to deal with, or that may have been blocking you from getting there. So a couple of things with this. It could be, if you are single, it could be symbolizing that there is a wedding in your future. If you are married, it could be symbolizing working on that commitment, strengthening it up, making sure you haven't been taking each other for granted, making sure you haven't been trying to sweep the difficult stuff under the carpet. Remember that the wedding is not the end, it is the start. It's the start of the journey. Your relationship will naturally grow and evolve with the aim of you becoming closer over time, and you just keep going to new levels with that. So the message here is to maybe look at, do you need to take a new step in commitment, or do you need to actually revisit what that commitment was, what you intended with that, and how you are honouring that in your day-to-day life. Maybe there's a bit more of a, reflection period needed there. So if we look at this with the context of what I mentioned before about Venus, it could be that maybe what's going on, the energy at the moment could be bringing to light some of those issues that you need to deal with. For example, Venus is the planet of harmony. And unfortunately what happens is for the signs that it rules, Libra and Taurus primarily, but obviously all of us are affected by this, they have a tendency to struggle with boundaries. They have a tendency to go along with what everybody wants because they want to keep the peace, not rock the boat. And unfortunately, sometimes we actually do need to rock the boat to get our needs met. If we are just abandoning what we want in order to go along with what everybody else wants, we're neglecting our relationship with ourselves, and we're going to end up dissatisfied and probably resentful, and then wondering why the other person doesn't know why we're resentful. So maybe that's coming up for you right now. Maybe that sort of stuff is coming up, and shining a light on where you maybe are stuffing down what you want and what is right for you and who you truly are. Again, that authenticity could be coming up. We can't pretend to be someone that we think our partner wants us to be. It just doesn't work. It is the absolute antithesis to intimacy, and intimacy is what a relationship's all about. You cannot pretend to be someone else. You just won't connect. And yeah, there's so much I could say about that. So maybe that's part of the thing going on in your relationship that's proving to be a struggle. Maybe that's part of what's going on in your single life as well. You keep meeting people and trying to be the person you think they should be, or you're trying to be like everybody else when you go out into the dating world, and maybe the problem is that your soulmate is looking for someone just like you. So lots of things to think about there, and Venus can be a rough ride, I have to say, but remember that whenever we're getting these challenges, it's an opportunity for us to really grow. We cannot grow if we're just going along with the status quo and not challenging the things that are not working. Wednesday's card here is Bast. Don't know if my Egyptian's a bit rusty. The card message is independent. So this Egyptian goddess had a special affinity with cats, so that might speak to you. If you think about the cat, actually, I'm not a cat person, I should be honest about that. They are one of those pets that need a lot of space, generally. They often are the ones who will not withhold affection, but they're not going to be always in your face wanting to be loved. And maybe that's something you need to think about. Are you too dependent on other people to give you a sense of value, to give you a sense of identity, to bolster your confidence, instead of working on really developing those skills within yourself? Equally, are you holding people at bay too much because you're trying to be the strong one and not asking for help from your partner, from your close friends, for example, or whoever is relevant? It's not necessarily about relationships here. I'm just speaking along those lines because that's been such a theme of late. I think it's also important to remember that independence and codependency, you can see how those words are related. Sometimes they can be a spectrum. We can really be really codependent in some ways, but really independent in others. And so it's not about trying to jump from one extreme to the other. It's about trying to sort of get a bit more balance there, because the whole thing about being in a relationship is there is going to be a level of dependence there. You just need to make sure it's not an unhealthy level, and I'm not really qualified to tell you what that is, because also every relationship is different. But what we need to make sure is, if we are outsourcing our decisions, if we're outsourcing our choices, our ideas about what we should or shouldn't be doing, our sense of value and self-esteem to someone else, that's going to be a problem, because you're going to get too dependent on them, and you're always going to be looking for something that they can't deliver. It really puts a lot of pressure on them as well. So yeah, lots to think about there. Now I'm shuffling for Thursday's message now. Sign from above. Everybody loves the messages about signs, and I love them too, but I must admit, I do feel a bit like I'm repeating myself here. If you've been following my work for a long time, you'll be very familiar with these messages, so you might want to just skip ahead about 30 seconds while I explain this. If you don't know what a sign is, it's basically a confirmation. It is not it's a confirmation from heaven, basically. It is not telling you what to do. It is confirming that you're on the right path. It is confirming that you are loved. It is confirming that you have everything you need. All those sort of reassurance messages. The angels don't leave a sign to tell you to go and do something. they leave you a sign to confirm that you are right to go ahead. So once the decision has to come from you. You can't outsource your decision making to the angels any more than you can to your partner. So I would say, if you are making a decision, don't just say, angels, give me a sign that tells me what to do. That's just not going to work. In my experience, everybody will have a different take on this. I can only speak from what I know. What you need to do is do some self-reflection on what is right for you. Make sure you extricate yourself from what other people expect, what other people are going to think, and really look at what is my heart telling me to do. And remember, it probably won't be the first thing that rises to the surface. Often that will be the fear response, that knee-jerk reaction. A lot of meditation can help, journaling, being alone in nature, etc. Once you know, but you're probably still going to be scared because life is scary. That's when you ask for the sign. Please confirm. I think that I say something like this: angels, I think I need to leave the city, whatever it is. Please give me a sign that this is right for me. I do not ask for a particular sign. I know there are a few spiritual leaders out there who say you've got to be specific. I personally don't advocate that. You've got to do what's right for you, however. Leave it up to them, and then, because otherwise you're going to go overthinking it. Like, yeah, you'll just question everything you see. You'll also probably need to leave the house. If you're just alone in your house, there's not a lot of opportunity for the angels to give you signs, although it can happen. I've found, feathers in my kitchen sink before, even though there's no birds around that part of the house. So it can happen, but you don't want to make it too hard for them to reach you. So I basically put it out of my mind. As soon as I've asked for it, I don't think about it again, because I can trust that once I'm out there in the world doing whatever I'm doing, generally thinking about something else, something completely unrelated, my grocery list, my work, whatever it is, the sign will jump out at me. And you just know. You might still go, oh, I'm still not sure, but you'll know. A part of you will know. You can ask for another sign as well if you want. That's totally okay. So typical angel signs include finding feathers or coins in unexpected places, seeing repeated digits such as 1, particularly 4s are another one. Like you just keep looking at your phone and it's 11:11. Although I do think in the digital era, to be honest, we're looking at our phones so often that perhaps this really isn't a sign. So you do have to trust your own judgment as well and be a bit discerning about it. Hearing meaningful music or song lyrics can be another one. And clusters of butterflies. A lot of people think that that is a message from people who've passed on, and I can certainly see, if you think about the symbolism of the butterfly, there's certainly potential there. What else? Cloud formations can be another one. So there's lots of signs out there, and as I say, different people do have a different take on this. The important thing to remember is that a sign is a message from above. If you see one and you haven't asked for it, it'll just be them saying, hey, you're okay, we're here, you're not alone. Sometimes I see it as like someone described this to me as like a photo is being taken of me at that moment. And I think, what do I want to be reflected at the moment? So I use it as like a power moment to think about, what am I projecting out into the world at this moment. So I think about my mindset at that time and start focusing on what it is I want to create, and make sure that my thoughts aren't really mired down in what I don't want or what I'm afraid of. There's probably enough information about signs because there is so much you could say, but really it's a process that evolves. Sorry, not a process that evolves, but your understanding is something that will evolve in a way that is unique to you, because there are a couple of things that I see as signs that are individual to me because they are meaningful to me because of my childhood, because of the experiences I've had. If I told you about them here, you'd be like, that doesn't really make any sense. It's just an understanding I've developed with spirit. So here we have Friday's card study, very Sagittarian message here. Remember, we're still under the influence of that full moon / lunar eclipse for 2 weeks until the next new moon. And there's sort of like a crossover when the new moon energy, which will be in Cancer, will start to come to the fore. Anyway, I know that not everybody's interested in astrology, so I am mindful of not spending too much time talking about that study. So one of our biggest life purposes for all of us, obviously we all have individual things that we want to accomplish or that our souls have decided to accomplish in this lifetime, but one of the main ones that we all have is we're here to learn and grow. We are not here to stagnate. This is really important. So this could be formal learning. If you're feeling called to go and study something, this could be a bit of a confirmation that's a good idea for you to do. If you've been eyeing up a workshop or, I don't know, some sort of seminar, online training course, this could be like your green light. Or it could be just about you needing to think about, what do I need to learn from a situation? This is a big one. Sometimes when we're going through challenges, a lot of people go, why is the universe testing me? The universe isn't testing us. It's just reflecting what's going on. So if you're feeling stuck, it could be that, you know, this kind of stagnancy in your life, or this continual attraction of what you don't want, is really like the universe trying to kick you into going, you need to change your mindset. You need to look at what's going on here and actually work through these blocks so you don't keep attracting this stuff. So what is it you need to learn here? Is it that you keep attracting situations that aren't working for you because there's deep fears within you that you need to work through and heal? So really thinking about, what do I need to learn here? And sometimes it is just the best way to move through a situation is to figure out the lesson. So, because remember that nothing goes away until it teaches us what we need to know. So that could be it here. What is the life lesson here? And sometimes I think life lessons are, for me, they're often more clear in retrospect. So don't put too much pressure on yourself if you're not aware. But often we do have some sort of understanding of what's going on here. For example, I'm trying to force something to happen that isn't quite right, for example, or I keep texting this guy even though I know that he's not right for me, or that he's not ready for a relationship, but I keep going back and doing this pattern that I know isn't right for me. So what is the lesson? Maybe I need to learn to trust my instincts and move on. Or yeah, there could be lots of things going on in this situation. I'm generalizing here. If none of that speaks to you, maybe just it could be coming up for people who are feeling like they're a bit bored at the moment, they're a bit restless. Maybe get into some study in terms of reading books that challenge you. Certainly as a society, we are being pushed to learn a lot more about the perspectives of people of colour, of Indigenous peoples, of Black peoples. And so maybe this is a good opportunity for you to do some deep diving into some really powerful leaders in those communities who've got so much to teach us, but without putting pressure on them to do that, because that is exhausting. So take it upon yourself to do the learning. We are constantly learning. We have to be. If we don't, what's the point? So, you know, Brian Weiss talks about this as being an earth school, and I love that turn of phrase because it's just so appropriate for what we're here to do. We're not just here to earn money and die. I mean, what would be the point? We're here to learn and elevate our understanding. So Saturday's message here is let go of fear. Now, fear never goes away. I constantly see these inspirational quotes saying you can defeat fear and be fearless, and I just sort of go, oh, great sentiment, but I just don't know how realistic that is. You know that I call myself one grounded angel because realism is what I really try to pull through. My aim is never to defeat fear. It's to try and work with fear, because fear is actually, usually it's showing up because we're on the right track. So what we need to, so although this card says let go of fear now, what I would say is, where is fear showing up for me right now? What can it teach me? And what do I need to do to move forward in spite of the fear? Not what I need to do to overcome it. So there's a couple of different levels we can go to with this, and the surface level would be exactly what I said here. So for example, if you've got a job opportunity that you're like trying to talk yourself out of applying for, is it just that I'm waiting for someone to give me permission for that? Is it that I don't feel like I'm good enough? Is it that I'm trying to protect myself from rejection? Maybe those sorts of things are going on. If we take it down a level and look at what's going on underneath, and you guys know I'm all about what's going on underneath. I am a double Scorpio after all. What in that particular example, am I trying to, is this a part of a longer term pattern of me where I try to keep myself playing small so that I don't get hurt? Have I been taught, for example, in my childhood, that if you're a woman or someone who identifies as a woman's place is in the home, and that you know, maybe I feel like I'm violating some sort of code if I go for this opportunity. Again, these are just examples. Maybe I'm scared that I'm going to fail, and if I fail, that means I'm a failure. And maybe this is part of some more underlying pattern of me not feeling like I'm good enough and trying to avoid being confronted with evidence that I'm definitely not good enough, which of course we know we start to attract what we're definitely afraid of. So, and I'm not saying that you would attract situations that show that you're not good enough. The thing is, if you believe you're not good enough, it starts to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. You start to self-sabotage, for example. And self-sabotage is generally done not maliciously. No one's actively trying to destroy their lives, I'm sure, but it's done from a place of fear. So lots of fear stuff can come up. The way that I, as an energy healer, will use the word fear is often going beyond the conscious level. It's at the subconscious level, those subconscious fears. So often we need to think about things that have happened in our past and how this might be connected to them, this particular situation that you're facing. For example, if you are you've got to do a presentation at work, or I don't know how realistic this is, given many of us are still working from home, but if you're really struggling with that and trying to get out of it, or you're just, it's really terrifying you. This is a Saturday anyway, that's not a good example for Saturday, let's go with it. Maybe you need to think about, does this happen for me a lot? Is it that I'm afraid of showing up in the world? Is it that I'm afraid of what people will think of me? Is it that I'm afraid of being exposed in some way? All these sorts of things can be operating, and you might like to think about, has something happened in my past where I was punished for speaking up? Or there's all sorts of ways that can show up. Where do I go next? I've got this card deck. I need to rein myself in a bit more, because I don't want to give anybody an energy healing session here, because it is something that's very personal. It needs to be specific to whoever I'm working with. So I think I'll just leave it at that, and just my aim is to just give you a little bit of a window into some of the things that we need to think about when we're trying to heal what's going on underneath. And fear is a big part of it. And if you can't figure out why you're afraid of something, it could be from a past life, in which case come and talk to me about energy healing, or a past life regression expert. Now, Sunday's card, let go of anxiety. You can see the parallelism here. We had let go of fear, now we've got let go of anxiety. So again, I want to reiterate this idea. You can't just let it go by going, I'm not going to be afraid anymore, or I'm not going to be anxious anymore. We know it's not that simple. So if you've tried to do that and it hasn't worked, please don't beat yourself up too much. These kind of energies that are around fear and anxiety they're often quite deep, and they're quite powerful. Particularly when you think about the fact that often fear is trying to protect us. It's really the ego acting in our interests, but often it goes too far to protect us from things that we actually need to experience in order to grow. So anxiety is also trying to keep us safe. It's trying to keep us from screwing up and suffering some sort of consequences from that. It's trying to protect us from anything bad happening, and there can be so many reasons we can worry about that. If you think about the nature of worry, it doesn't help. It doesn't keep us safe. It doesn't stop us from, experiencing adverse outcomes. But that doesn't stop our ego from doing it anyway. It's like a way of trying to take control of a situation. Anxiety is all about control. When we feel like we don't have any control, anxiety kicks in. And often control drives more anxiety, because we're trying to control things that we actually can't control. So looking at where that might be going on, because the antidote to anxiety is peace. And peace means we're going to have to let go of our desire to try and control everyone and everything, and trust instead that things will be okay. Of course, doing what we need to do in any particular situation, but making sure we're not trying to control so much that people feel suffocated around us, that we can't sleep because we're so busy trying to control everything and can't actually surrender to that place of peace. So lots to talk about there. I'll leave it at that, but really concentrating on, where am I going into fear instead of going into a place of being able to trust? That fight or flight response. And remember, deep breathing into just below your belly button. It's called diaphragmatic breathing. There is a lot of science proving its merit. It can really help you get out of that fight or flight response. We don't make good decisions when we're in fight or flight. We're trying to control. We're trying to get out of danger's way. But in fact, sometimes our ways that we do that don't help. So when I look at this week, we've got a lot about fear, obviously, particularly towards the weekend, a lot about relationships, and yeah, I think those are the main things here. I would say this idea about renewing your life by getting rid of what's weighing you down would be tied back to these messages about fear. They're actually quite nice bookends for the week, I would say. So that's it for the week. I hope that's been helpful for you. I know there is a lot going on in the world. we knew that this year was not going to be easy. We didn't know it was going to shape up quite like this. But even though things seem like they're totally chaotic at the moment, we have to remember that chaos generally precedes something better, hopefully. But we need to make sure, in order to get to that end point, that we need to be doing the work we're being called to do, letting go of the things that are not serving us, working through our fears, doing so much learning, and really going into self-reflection. If there's no self-reflection, there is no growth. So you'll find me on my Instagram at OneGroundedAngel. I post each card each day, a little more detail there when I do so. You can also reach me via my website, which is www.onegroundedangel.com. And if you want to talk to me about working with me on a one-on-one level via Zoom, you can do that via my website, going to the bookings tab. And of course, each card goes on my Facebook page, which is called One Grounded Angel. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a really good week.